Today on the show, I'm joined by my friend Skott Enns. Scott's a mortgage broker based out of Regina, Saskatchewan. And during my roadshow, my 12-city roadshow for ILMB, we met in person, did a podcast. If you check out the video of this, you can see Skott wearing the old logo shirt that we had from a long time ago. In this episode, we talk about how Skott funds approximately 190 mortgages a year with one assistant. He walks me through what he does with his time. We walk through his process step by step, who does what, when. It's very helpful. And we talk about how he markets to his database. He's got some pretty creative ideas on that I absolutely love. And Scott's just a salt of the earth kind of guy. I think you're going to love this conversation I have with him. Hey, I'm Scott Peckford, and this is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast, the #1 podcast for mortgage brokers to improve their mortgage business. And our goal when we create these shows is to give you stuff that you can take and apply to your business. And I think Skott absolutely delivers. So a little background on me. I started this podcast 10 years ago, and I'm also the founder of Bricks Mortgage at BRX Mortgage. And I love talking to mortgage brokers. So I'm just going to jump into this, and I will finish at the end and give you my thoughts. Hey, Skott, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me.
So just so people are aware, it's Skott with a K, not a C, correct?
It is Skott with a K.
So is that the name is that your birth name, or did you change that because you wanted to be a rebel? Like, where did it come from?
No, you know what? The story I tell people is just that I have Ukrainian heritage, and that was just a mistake my mom made in a panic just after I was born. But the reality is that we were playing video games as a kid, and I was first or second grade, and somebody misspelled my name when they were entering my name on the video, and it was Skott. I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. And it actually just stayed that way for the rest of my life.
Right. So is that your name? Then is that what your mom spelled it, or was it?
No, it was actually spelled Skott.
Okay. So then
I've added the K.
I like it because it's kind of, maybe I should do it too, and then I could be like two Scotts with a K. And there's only two in the country, or two.
Right. We can be the only two. There
is another Skott Peckford I found, which is a very,
right.
I think it's not like, John Smith, nothing against John Smith's, but there's a guy who's a counselor in I think he's in Nova Scotia. But he played junior hockey, so he's probably way more athletic than me. But anyway, you search your own name. Have you ever searched your own name and found anybody the same?
I think if I put Skott, I think I'm some sort of like a Norwegian rock star or something like that. So
but with the same last name though, Skott Enns.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Yeah, so there's literally one. There's one. Yeah, there's one in 38 million that I know of. One in Canada with the exact same name as me. But okay, that's my ADD. I was just interested in that. Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you got in the mortgage biz.
Cool. So it was back in I guess from 2003 to 2009. I was actually working for a top 40 radio station in Regina. I had a couple of clients who were also mortgage brokers, and at the time I talked to my manager at the radio station, asking him if this was something that maybe I could moonlight at, was becoming a mortgage broker, and which he promptly denied. And then, again, it was during 2008, the radio station ended up hiring this beautiful brunette who they allowed me to train, who I started dating, then married. And you trained her. So I trained her, yes.
Yeah.
And so then as part of our honeymoon in 2011, we actually rented out our house. We both quit our jobs at the radio station, and we did a 15-month round the world backpacking trip. When I came back, this was then the perfect segue to get into something different. And so again, I went back to the possibility of either becoming a mortgage broker or becoming a realtor. And when I realized that you did not have to work weekends as a mortgage broker, that was how I made the decision, and there was no looking back.
Right. And you don't have to go show houses. There's a different, I mean, I'm a big fan of being a mortgage broker. Nothing against being a realtor, but I would prefer myself. The lifestyle would be better. And it's always a lot of evenings and weekends and stuff as a realtor because it's just different. Right?
I would make this decision again 100 times over. I feel like this is the greatest industry in the world, and I'm just very fortunate to be a part of it.
So you're based out of Regina, and your business has been there the whole time. So where does your business come from right now? Yeah,
everything. I'm based in Regina, born and raised. But I mean, most of the business is in and around Regina, right? I mean, people move, so
you get some clients.
You do get some clients who are, whether it's in Saskatoon, whether it's moving to BC, whether it's moving to Alberta. But yeah, so I mean, part of being, I'm with TMG, the mortgage group, so I can do mortgages technically across the country. But
yeah, most of it's in here. In this area.
Oh yeah, 90% is. 90,
and then, if you don't mind me asking, so like, approximately how many files would you average a year? Do you think?
Peak in 2021 was 190, and then the last year was a bit of a down year. I just sort of mentally was not in the game. But I've decided that it was time to work a little bit harder in 2024. And so we should be close to that again this year. I'm hoping that by the time the year ends, we'll be at 175, 185. Something.
And then what do you have for support to do that many files?
I have a full-time assistant who actually lives here in Saskatchewan, 2.5 hours away from Regina.
Yeah.
And she's a lifesaver. Without her...
you don't have any other help?
I have no other help.
Okay. And because it's one thing I find when I've been going to these kind of smaller cities and with the smaller mortgage size, and people have no problem. I was talking to Sarah Albert, who's doing 400 mortgages a year. I'm just like, you're in Vancouver. That's a monster number of mortgages. And so, you're doing 100. How many hours are you working? What does that look like? Are you working a lot? Is it, you got boys that do football and stuff. So I don't know, family's important. And so like, how are you managing to pull that off?
Yeah, we got 3 kids.
Three.
10-year-old twin boys and a 4-year-old daughter and a busy wife who is working as well. So yeah, balance is key. My colleague once jokingly said that I do the most business, but put in the least amount of time. And it's not that there's no time, but I do try to keep it to probably 30 hours a week. I would say more often than not, I'm, in the office, say by around 10 o'clock, maybe 9:30, and, in and around 3:30 or 4 o'clock. Sometimes I got to be home for the kids to come home from school. So then I'm heading home. As far as evenings and weekends, if it's absolutely necessary to accommodate something with a client, we can have a phone call or something like that. But for the most part, yeah,
it's not that bad.
Call it 9 to 3, 9 to 4.
Yeah.
Sort of.
That's a significant number of files. So I got to ask some questions about that. And before we turn the recorder, you're like, I really don't do that much. You kind of joke and say, I'm just kind of a grouchy old mortgage broker. I don't think you are. But you basically but you're doing the fundamentals well. And there's a lot of people that would be buried in, they'd be working a lot more hours than that. So what do you think helps you to be able to get that much done in the time that you're putting into work?
Her name is Sherry.
Her name is Sherry. So a lead comes in. Yes. Where does she pick it up and where do you pick it up? I'm going to get into the kind of the weeds just so I can get a picture of what. Yeah.
Well, without her, I would be dead or divorced or both. But no. So business comes in, and whether it's an email or a phone call. So I will try to get the client on the phone. We will have our initial conversation. Typically speaking, from there, it ends with me sending them a link to my online application.
And so how long is that call usually, the discovery call?
15 minutes.
Right. So 15-minute call. Yeah. And do they book with you or do you just, like, if somebody messages you, just try to call them till you get them on the phone? How do you do that?
Yeah. I should connect with Calendly or something similar to make my life a little bit more organized. But no, at this point, if someone calls me, they call me. If someone sends me an email, I just call them when I get a free second. And it's fine. I'll send them a link to my online application, text it to them, email it to them. They'll fill it out at their convenience. Again, we meet with very few people in person.
That's pretty normal now.
Yeah, these days, it's one every 2 weeks maybe comes into the office. But I will send them the link. When I get it back, I will actually just forward it to Sherry to just process. So she'll plug it into.
She does a pre-qualification, like cleans it up,
inputs it into Filogix. Let me know that it's ready to go. So I'll give them a shout. We'll go through the application together, dot any I's, cross any T's, right? If the client has put that they earn $80,000 a year self-employed, well, we'll talk in more detail about that. Are you sole proprietor? Are you incorporated, et cetera, et cetera. We'll pull the credit at that time. If there's any hurdles, we'll discuss those hurdles. If there's the opportunity to move forward, whether it's a refinance, renewal, or purchase, we'll go through it at that time. Sherry will then send them an email with a list of the documentation.
So do you get any documents before that review happens? Typically
no.
So a discovery call, application. Do you have another phone call with me after that point?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you look at the app, you ask questions,
yeah,
and then
as we're going through the application.
Yeah.
Then
you clean it up too.
Right. We clean it up.
So does she? Okay, this is specific. Yeah. Does she make that phone call? So you do the first phone call. Does she do the second call where the app is getting cleaned up, or is that you?
That's me.
Okay, so she's just basically confirming stuff from the credit bureau, whatever, cleaning it that way, and then you do a call
with the client because they still at that point they still have the relationship with me.
Yeah.
And to from their perspective, Sherry doesn't exist yet.
Right.
So it's after we have that secondary phone call.
And then how do you set up Sherry or talk about her so that they know someone else is going to be reaching out?
I will let them know that Sherry will be sending them an email.
Yeah.
And so she will do so that same day. Again, typically speaking.
And how do you describe what her role is to your client? So from your client, how would you say it?
I just say, you know what? Next step is Sherry's going to be sending you guys an email. There's going to be a list of the paperwork that we need to move forward. Mm-hmm. Moving forward, she's going to be involved in everything to do with the documentation. She's going to help set up the signing package. So if you have any questions, you can definitely, she knows just as much as I do. She was a mortgage broker previously. You can ask her, or if you would rather ask me, I'm here for you, no problem as well. And, so then the documentation starts coming in. Once all the documentation is reviewed, then we will, I will give them one more call just to say, hey, everything looks great. We don't, as part of the process, we don't actually send out official pre-approval letters unless for some reason the realtor requests it. But then at that point we can do that. Say,
will you send one of those documents?
No.
Right.
No, you can't do anything without documents, but it's, we're happy to sort of develop the relationship and stuff like that. I mean, really at the end of the day, before any documents are collected, I'm having 2 10 to 15 minute phone calls.
Right.
Right. And I mean, in those phone calls.
But here's the thing. One of the things that your superpowers that I've heard is you're good at building rapport and getting people to trust you. So those 2 calls are really where a lot of the trust is being built in. Okay, Scott's going to be my guy and you're going to help me with whatever the next step is, right?
100%. And yeah, I mean, despite the fact that I, or most people, we don't actually meet a lot of clients in person anymore. I do think it is necessary to be on the phone with the client as often as possible, right? Because you cannot build trust via email.
Right. It's kind of flat.
It's so tough.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you have, the tone can come off wrong in emails, and there's no emotion. There's no caring in an email.
Right.
It's really tough. Whereas if you're on the phone with a couple of people or with your client, it's so much easier to develop trust and develop the relationship. And that's the same thing that I asked Sherry to do as well. Is that if there's something that you sense is stressing the client out, lay out the numbers in an email, but always follow up with a phone call.
Right.
Right. Because
so you want them to see it, but then actually talk through it so they give some context to it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you need to run a bunch of numbers, sometimes you can't run those numbers in a phone call, right? You can lay them all out in very detailed fashion in an email. But if you can call the client and that you can feel that these guys are super stressed because there's 2 days and before financing needs to be approved. And, despite the fact that we've seen this a million times, this is the first time they've been through it.
Right.
And, they're worried if this is all going to fall apart. Well, make sure that they're feeling comfortable with the situation. There was a broker somewhere had said once that if a client or a realtor for that matter ever calls us to ask how something is going, we failed.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the thing that, I try to practice and Sherry tries to practice is to get ahead of it and make sure that both the realtor and the client always know what's going on.
Right. That's good. Okay. Does she do any phone calls with clients, or is it all everything from her side done through email communications for document collection?
Only if there's an issue where she needs to
like a bit more clarity.
Explain something a little bit better, or if she gets an email from a client who's she senses panic, then she will call them.
Right. Okay. What about source of business? Where does your business come from?
Probably the 3 main sources that everybody is going to be talking about. So it's your existing database and existing clients, realtors, and then I'm actually quite surprised the number of people that will call me because they were Googling Regina mortgage brokers.
And how many reviews do you have?
We should crack 400 this year.
Okay.
And it doesn't mean that I'm
no, that's really good. And people, the people that I've talked to that have a significant number of reviews tell me the quality of the leads is actually really good when it's the leads that are coming in from the paid ads, the clickbaity ads that are usually not as good, but the ones coming in that are, I want a mortgage. Who's the mortgage? You've got lots of reviews. I'm going to come see you. Is that been your experience?
Yes, 100%.
So, and if you were to split those three, so what percentage would you estimate? I'm not going to hold you to this, but like between the database, the realtors and reviews.
I would say slightly, the most would be from my existing database.
Yeah.
I would say probably 50%.
Yeah.
And then if you're going 30% from Google and 20% from realtors and other potential referral partners.
So you've been in the business a long time, but I know people that are in the business a long time, and some of them have even done more files than you and I combined, and yet they don't have reviews. How did you get to 400 reviews? What are you doing? Or are you asking for them? And if you are, when, what's the, because lots of people like where they do business, but that doesn't mean they'll leave a review, right?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I'm doing differently is asking, I think.
And so when would you ask in that process?
Ideally, you want to be asking, not a month after they've taken possession of the house, right? And they've forgot about you and moved on. But you want to be asking when emotions are high and, tears are in their eyes and they're like, oh, smokes, I'm going to get a house. Right. And then it's just like, hey, I got a quick favor to ask you. Now that all the heavy lifting on my end has been done, would you mind dropping a quick 5-star Google review, and you leave them the link for a Google review. Sometimes I'll leave them a link for a Facebook review as well. And
do you follow up if they don't do it, or you just do it once and ask?
Part of our process is 30 days after possession, Sherry will give them a follow-up call. And if they haven't left a review, she will just casually, softly ask if this is something that they wouldn't mind doing.
Right.
The uptake isn't nearly as strong though.
But it does add a few every year. I'm sure you get some on the secondary one, but they don't get it done right away. Okay. So 30% from reviews. And so, they're still valuable. Like, it's still valuable to have, because, when I'm in a town, I'm in Saskatoon right now, I'm trying to figure where to go for dinner last night. I don't know. I just look it up. So when somebody's newer in an area, they're typically going to, and there is an advantage to dealing with a local mortgage specialist, just like a local realtor. You're going to have knowledge about buildings and certain issues that other people wouldn't know if they're not in the area, right? Like, I guarantee you know more about your market than a person who's not in your market, and you know about maybe realtor partners, you just know, this lawyer's office has always got you just know stuff. And so there's an advantage to that.
Oh, 100%. No, we will get calls. They're always Ontario numbers about somebody who wants to invest in a property in Regina.
Yeah.
And they're living in Toronto, but they saw on MLS that there's this $64,000 house in Regina. Well, I mean, I know very well that that's in the no-fly zone for most lenders, because it is in the Regina North Central area, which wouldn't be the most desirable area. And just informing the client that
right.
That's
so
probably something they don't.
You don't want that. Like, right.
What they see as a cheap investment opportunity, to me, is almost certainly going to be a massive headache for them.
Right. Okay. What about? So again, you're doing a lot of files for two people, only the two of you. What, do you have would you say, who's your avatar client? If you had to, who's the typical client that you see a lot of?
Again, this is probably pretty cookie cutter for most. I mean, I do a ton of new to Canada and whatnot, but, first time home buyers, easy enough, right? Being referred by a past client. They're working for the Crown Corporation, for SaskTel, for SaskPower, being self-employed. But I've learned really quickly. Well, not really quickly. It's taken me a while to learn what my no list is, right? I mean,
what's a no for you?
Commercial.
Right.
For sure. Every once in a while you get excited about the idea of, man, look at the potential on the commissions that you could earn on this commercial deal. But the reality is I don't know squat about it.
Right.
I've considered dabbling here and there, but for the time it takes to successfully get that commercial work and close, because a lot of them don't close.
Yeah.
Right. And they take significantly more time than a residential file. I mean, I can go find 3 or 4 residential mortgages to make up for that very easily. Right.
Yeah. I always used to call commercial deals for elephant hunting. They're big. Yeah, sure. you can, if you're hunting, you can eat a lot, but they might step on your head too. And, and a lot of them die. I'd rather just hunt gazelles and just be like simple everyday, you know, so you can make a system, right? You can't, it's hard to systematize commercial files because they're all so unique and time consuming. Okay. So would you say the other thing I notice with people that have, you know, do a lot of a high number of units with a small team or virtually no teams, what I would say you have one person, it's not much. That's not much. So, do you have like a small group of lenders you work with? Because often I find there's like, you end up kind of because you get good service. Like, would you say there's what percentage of your business would fall into, say, 5 lenders?
90%. Right. I mean, it's a great, you know, one of the strengths of working with a mortgage broker is that we have access to dozens and dozens of lenders, but I mean, nobody actually uses more than, 4 or 5. Yeah.
And usually because you can solve all of the problems with those 4 or 5 lenders, and you also get relationship, which means they'll actually solve things that for you that maybe it's not, you know, it's outside of the typical scope, but they'll be like, yeah, I'll do it because you do lots of business with us.
Oh, 100%. Right. I mean, we talk about relationships with our clients, but I mean, relationships with the lenders, you know, treating them with respect. And, I mean, I will say you catch more flies with honey. Yeah. Right. So just be kind to these people and, try to make their lives easier. They're doing what they can to help you. But recently there was a situation where we had a contract teacher, and it was definitely in the gray area. And the response from the underwriter was, you know, we work together. I know you. I trust you. I'm signing off on this. Normally I would not. Right. Right. So yes. That's why you build trust and develop relationships with your underwriters.
When I see somebody go on the Facebook group and they're ranting about a lender and tearing, like you're not helping yourself at all. You're literally, and they see it.
They're all in the same.
They're going to go, oh, like, you know, it's like, man, you are not thinking very clearly on this. Like you're definitely better off to treat, like if you work well with them, if you make their job easy as much as possible, like the best mortgage brokers I know, they do the most volume, they get the most exceptions, almost without exception. Every one of them treat their lender partners with a ton of respect. Every one of them. Oh. But some of the people that haven't been around as long or have businesses that are struggling, they do not. And you know what? That just shows that's part of the problem, frankly, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And I mean, again, I'm not perfect, right? I mean,
no, me neither. I had one underwriter that actually fired me because I sent an email that was meant to be, again, back to the tone. The tone, I said it as a joke. My assistant forwarded an email, and I was like, "Oh," she's like, "Oh, that was," and I sent her a bottle of wine, and I could not get her back. Like it was not good.
Yeah, it's. Oh no, I mean, I've had situations where, you know, I mean, your emails come off a little bit too snarky, or, you know, and in the same sense, even if things are not going your way, and you need to get something done, if you have trust with those people, you know, sometimes they will still see your side of it. Yeah. You know, recently was one actually on a, you know, with a mortgage renewal. And these days, a lot of our existing lenders, they don't necessarily have open terms for the existing clients to go into, and everybody wants to keep their clients. And I get that. But the reality was that, with these particular clients, their credit scores had dropped a little bit. They needed to refinance. Otherwise, essentially they were going to have to sell their house. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I mean, I was getting a lot of pushback that, I mean, there was no open without a payoff statement. And we just didn't have that, you know, we weren't able to make that happen under the timeline. And, so, you know, emailing basically everybody I knew within that organization, you know, eventually we were able to get the mortgage put into an open term. So we were able to move the mortgage, you know, and help the clients out. Right. And I mean, long term, it's a win-win for everybody because I still feel great about the lender. The clients are in a better situation, and I mean, it just worked out.
But again, it comes back to relationship. Okay. So I want to ask you about renewals and refi. Like right now, what percentage of your business is purchase versus renewal and refi?
50% would be purchase, 20%, 25 would be refi, and then the rest would be renewals.
Really? Okay. And, so what's that normal? Like a year ago, would it be, how's it changed?
I think people are a little bit more prone to considering refinances now that rates are creeping down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I mean, I think we've done, a little bit more in terms of, refinances. Yeah. Renewals are a little bit bigger now, twofold. One, because I'm actually making a bit more of an effort. I would say that would be one change that I've made over the last little while, that I'm actually putting some effort into renewals this year. And two, now, I mean, clients are getting their renewal letters, right? After being in, a 2.4 or 1.9 or a 2.8 rate.
Sticker shock.
And they're seeing 4.6 and 4.7. And they're like, well, this can't be right. And I mean, in some cases I can save them some money, not nearly as much as they think, but, but it does, it's a catalyst for more phone calls.
More conversations, right? Okay. So what's something that you failed at, but now looking back in it, there was a lesson in it for you? Give me mortgage or like life, business, doesn't matter.
I knew this was, and I fail all the time. But nothing is really coming to my head. I think, just, there's a lot of things that I try to do. And, in the end, it just isn't a fit for me.
Like, give me an example of something.
Things like using video.
Right.
Do I think video is a fantastic means of communicating with clients? 100%. When I've been able to do it, do I get great feedback? Yes. But it just isn't something that...
You're a radio guy. You're an ex-radio guy. You're all voice. It's like, listen to the sound of my sultry voice.
Well, I don't even have that.
We can do some post-production on that. You'll sound like James Earl Jones. You'll sound like James Earl Jones when we're done with you.
Like I'm a choked out chicken. But yeah, it's just nothing that I was able to do consistently. And so, no.
But being okay with that, because like there's a lot, sometimes you hear a lot of noise or some things can work, but obviously it's not affecting your business. It's not affecting your family time. So like if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Right? Yeah. And again, it's not right. Could it be better for my business? You had put out the post yesterday about, if I disappeared from social media, how would it impact my business? I don't think it would at all, because I'm never there.
Yeah.
Right. And it feels like the older I'm getting, the less I want to be there.
Yeah. I've made conscious efforts in the last year, only because that's where everybody for me, it's where for my people are the mortgage people. They're hanging out on there. So it's interesting.
Yeah. And I mean, could it help my business if I put effort into it? 100%. Right.
Right.
But, again, with me doing the business that I'm doing, I'm just not able to, fit that in. I think that would be something that if I hired somebody else, because I mean, Sherry is now at capacity as well. So if I was able to hire somebody else, I mean, that would be one of the roles that we would give them would be to assist, in social media. I think that for me, doing something like that would help to grow my business more than, say having other mortgage brokers working underneath it.
Right. Okay. Something I didn't ask about was, so once you got that thing approved or the file goes live, do you call them again and say, hey, or what happens once? So that file gets submitted and it's approved. Are you calling them or are you emailing them? Is Sherry contacting them? What happens
so there? We are, so we get I let them know, hey, time to go shopping, connect with your realtor. At that point, I will, if they need a lawyer referral, a realtor referral, whatnot, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah.
They will go house hunting. And then once we get the purchase contract emailed to us, we follow up with the client to, go through, right? I mean, are we doing a 5-year, 3-year fixed variable? What is important at that point in time? And then if there's any other documents that need to be updated because it's taking a little bit longer, we'll collect those at that time. We touch base with the realtor and just sort of say, hey, we've received the purchase contract, working within the 7 to 10 day parameter. We should be good to go. We'll keep you posted. Speaking of consistency, one thing I'm trying to do a little bit more often is also call the listing agent.
Right.
And whether it's a quick text, email, or call, just say,
hey, just to make connection.
Scott here. I'm, working on a financing on 123 Smith Street. Just want you to know, it shouldn't be a headache and we're going to try to get this done as soon as humanly possible for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And again, Regina is a smaller community, so I've been lucky enough to work with most realtors.
So they would know who you are, and then it's like, so they build some trust.
So yeah. Hopefully that makes them feel better as opposed to striking fear in their heart. But and then we also tried to communicate on a regular basis with both clients and and their agent. Just again, I don't want them calling us to say, hey, how's things going? Right. So process that we have with Sherry and I is primarily Sherry is to reach out every second day, even if it's just a quick text, hey, Scott, just want you to know that financing is going really great for our client. We should be fine being able to lift financing condition in the next 3 days. We're just waiting on, the last of the paperwork.
Right.
Okay. And same thing with the client. Again, we always have to remember that despite the fact that we've done this a few hundred times, for most of these clients or a lot of these clients, this is
you got to assume for them that they've not done this. Okay. What do you do? Because you said like a good chunk of your business comes from your database. I think it was like 50%. What are you doing for your database not to forget about you? I saw a little while you're thinking about that. I saw a stat recently that was something like only 13% of people who use their realtor remember who, like they say 87% of people said they would use their realtor, but only a 20% maybe use the realtor when they go to another house. And I think a lot of mortgage brokers are the same. So how are you what are you doing so they don't forget you?
100%. So we will do the follow-up phone calls, right? 30 days after.
Is there any other calls you do?
We don't. So at this point, like there's no annual.
Is there any emails or anything that you send? Or
yes. Okay, right. So I mean, I do participate in the VIP club.
Right.
So I mean, I find that actually is great. For connecting with clients,
keeping them remember who you are. That you like. Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And when we will ask, like within the VIP club, right? Where I mean, it's if you want to win a prize, answer a question, right? Sometimes the questions are mortgage or real estate related. Sometimes they're, if you could be a flavor of ice cream, what flavor of ice cream would you be? And
what was your answer to that, by the way?
Always pistachio.
Pistachio? I'd be
always
chocolate.
Pistachio. And so
I'd be death by chocolate.
Death by chocolate.
That's a flavor of ice cream. That's a very specific.
Very intense. Yeah, no, I don't have that level of intensity. But
okay, I'm not that personality wise, but that's like James Bond. Like I think Death by Chocolate would be like a James Bond character, which I'm not, but that's.
But no,
this is just fantasy stuff. So sorry, okay, sorry.
Maybe I would be pistachio because some people like me, many people don't.
And you got nuts
a little bit nutty.
And you're a bit nut. Yeah. So there you go.
I don't know.
There's actually like I've a question I'll ask people sometimes is like when you go fly, do you want to sit in the window or the aisle? And then the next question is why? And people have a reason. So let me ask you, what's your answer to that question?
Always the aisle because I have long legs.
Okay.
And if I have to go to the washroom, I don't want to go for people.
Right. So I always sit by the window because I want to lean against the wall and sleep. And I don't care if I have to bother other people to get up. I know, like Loren, who works with me, she's very empathetic. She's like, I want to sit in the aisle so I don't have to bother anybody. I'm like, I didn't even cross my mind. So it says a lot about your personality, your seat choice there's actually there's a little psychological test, and I don't know what you can do with it, but it's
I've also had several situations though where I have my long legs in the aisle and then the
cart runs you over.
The cart runs me over, leaves me bruises on my shins, and
and then you get a free flight pass or something, maybe. If you scream enough. Okay, so I got you distracted. So okay, we're talking about database. You do the VIP club, which is basically creates a question that creates some engagement.
Yeah, and
you do a phone call. Yeah.
We do the phone call. Going back to the VIP club. Oftentimes, I mean, there's the opportunity to respond to their answers, right? So again, I have not consistently, but as much as I can, right? If I have a couple of, unique responses, I will respond back, and I've gotten great feedback from that as well.
Yeah, because some people will write up some stuff that's hilarious.
Yeah, and also they're like, oh, well, I just thought that this was an answer I threw into a database that nobody would ever read. But I mean, I do go through, the list of answers and will respond to, my favorite 5 or 10 or whatnot. And yeah, I mean, that's about it in a nutshell. I mean, you can do so many things in this business. Not all of them make you money. Even
a lot of them don't.
A lot of them don't make you money. Even something like closing gifts, right? I mean, we've gone back and forth on attempting to get the closing gifts delivered, right? I mean, we've done the Google Homes, we've done the Instapots, we've done, all sorts of things. And in the end, we've sort of, during COVID, we ended up kiboshing everything and we haven't gone back. And I don't think it's impacted business. The one thing that we will do that, I almost forgot is that we have someone who has sort of taken Regina by storm. She is actually known as the cookie lady. Mm-hmm. And she makes these amazing sugar cookies. really colorful, icing on top of them and whatnot. And I have a connection with her where every week I send her a list of my clients whose birthdays are coming up, and she will hand deliver a half dozen cookies to their doorstep anywhere in the city of Regina, up to, even Moose Jaw and Emerald Park, which are like 20 to 30 minutes outside city limits.
Yeah.
And she does that. I don't even want to tell people. She does it for $6.
Right.
Like, it's insane.
For 6 cookies.
$6, 6 cookies includes delivery.
Oh my goodness.
To their door.
Well, here's the thing. So so then there is another touch point in there beyond these other ones. And that's like, and is that so that, that's cool. Okay. So, this has been a great conversation. I'm glad, I don't know why I was, getting you on the show, because it's been like 10 years. We've known each other since, I want to say I met you way when I started. Like, it wasn't long in, or certainly when I started the podcast. I
jokingly said that, when you started the I Love Mortgaging,
you were like
the third person there. I was number 3.
Yeah, I think you were. I was like, hey, welcome.
And every time you were looking for more people to come on the podcast, I'm like, pick me, and never.
But I also get to do a live show with you, which I have not done very many of. So this has been fun. Where can people find you online if they're looking for you? Even though you're not online.
Despite my my non-affinity for social media, yes, I'm there. Instagram and Facebook. I do have my website. But yeah, it doesn't. If you Google Regina, Skott with the K Mortgages, you'll find me pretty quickly.
Yeah, I'm easy to find. Thanks, man.
Awesome.
Thanks for coming to chat with me.
I appreciate you, buddy. Take care.
Hey, thanks again for listening, and hopefully you're inspired from my conversation with Skott. And if you want to find out more about how we can maybe help in your mortgage business, we set up a Skool community for mortgage brokers. It's mortgagebrokerskool.com, and that's Skool. Thanks to Alex Mosley for creating this amazing platform. And we got all kinds of stuff planned in there. Go check that out. You can join for free. Mortgagebrokerskool.com. Schools with Skool, not unlike my buddy Skott here with a K. Thanks again for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business that someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is like, who's got the answer? Hopefully this podcast provides some of those answers. And I know for sure that Mortgage Broker Skool will also provide answers. Check that out. Thanks again for listening. And I will see you on the next episode.